The unforgivable attack. The universe had rules. Not the kind written in dusty tomes or diplomatic agreements, but the unwritten laws of decency forged through centuries of interstellar conflict and fragile peace. Among these unspoken commandments, one stood paramount. You never, under any circumstances, fired upon a medical convoy. Medical ships were sanctuaries amid the cold vacuum of space. They carried no weapons, only doctors, medicine, and the wounded. Their hulls gleamed with the universal blue and white symbol of aid, visible across all spectrums. Even during the bloodiest conflicts, these vessels passed unmolested through battle zones, their mission sacred to all spacefaring species, until the day the Xilari broke that sacred trust. The convoy consisted of 5 Earth medical frigates, dispatched to the mining colony on Proxima Delta II after a catastrophic collapse in the planet's northern quarries. Thousands were trapped, injured, and dying. The ships carried specialized rescue equipment, trauma surgeons, and emergency supplies. Their course took them nowhere near contested space or Xilari territory. Admiral Helena Reyes stood motionless on the bridge of the EF's Sentinel, Earth's orbital defense station. The holographic display before her showed only static now, but the final transmission from the medical frigate Mercy had burned itself into her memory. The young doctor's panicked voice, the screams in the background, the flash of Xilari warships on the scanner before the feed cut out. Again, she commanded, her voice unnaturally steady. Her communications officer hesitated. Admiral, you've already viewed it 7. Again. The footage played once more. The medical convoy proceeded on its designated route, broadcasting identification on all frequencies. Then, without warning or provocation, 3 Xilari battle cruisers decelerated from FTL directly into their path. There was no hail, no demand for surrender, just the immediate flash of weapons fire. The Mercy managed one final transmission before it was vaporized. This is Medical Frigate Mercy under attack by Xilari forces. We are unarmed. We carry 247 medical personnel and emergency supplies. Please. The transmission ended in static. 5 ships, over 1,000 medical personnel, all gone. Admiral Reyes turned to face the assembled leaders of Earth's Defense Council. Their expressions ranged from shock to fury, but no one spoke. They didn't need to. We've verified the footage, President Kamal asked, though they all knew the answer. Triple verified, confirmed General Zhang. The Xilari ship's signatures are unmistakable. This was a deliberate attack. President Kamal stood, straightening his jacket in a gesture that had become famous during his 15 years in office. It was what he did before making the hardest decisions. Since our first contact with alien species 2 centuries ago, humanity has strived to be a force for stability in this galaxy. We've mediated conflicts. We've provided aid without condition. We've shown restraint when provoked. His voice hardened. But there are lines that cannot be crossed. The Xilari have not just attacked our people. They've attacked the very foundation of interstellar peace. He looked each council member in the eye before continuing. As of this moment, Earth is at war with the Xilari Dominion. No negotiations. No warnings. They've made their choice. The order went out immediately. Within 12 hours, every available Earth warship was mobilized. Colony defenses were reinforced. Reserve military personnel were activated. A civilization that had known decades of peace shifted to war footing with practiced efficiency. Aboard the EFS Retribution, Captain Maya Chen received her deployment orders with cold fury. The Retribution was Earth's newest dreadnought, armed with weapons that military engineers had hoped would never see use. Now it would lead the first strike force into Xilari space. For Maya, this was personal. Her sister, Dr. Lian Chen, had been the chief medical officer aboard the Mercy. They had spoken just hours before the attack. Lian excited about the new surgical techniques she would be using to save the trapped miners. Now Maya stood before her crew of 1,200, their faces grim and determined. I won't pretend this is a normal deployment, she began, her voice carrying across the vast assembly hall. I won't give you platitudes about duty and honor. What happened to our medical convoy was an atrocity. It was a violation of everything civilized species hold sacred. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. But make no mistake, this is not about revenge. This is about justice. This is about ensuring that no species ever again believes they can target healers with impunity. We will strike hard. We will strike fast. And we will make absolutely certain that the galaxy remembers why humanity survived every extinction event our planet threw at us. No one cheered. There was no applause. Just solemn nods and hardened expressions. This wasn't a war anyone wanted, but it was a war everyone understood was necessary. The Retribution, along with its battle group of 7 destroyers and 15 frigates, jumped into FTL, destined for the auxiliary border outpost at Vega Proxima. Maya studied the tactical display in her ready room. The auxiliary were a relatively new spacefaring species, having achieved FTL travel just over a century ago. They were disciplined warriors with an authoritarian government, but their technology lagged behind Earth's by at least 20 years. Their ships were heavily armored but slower and less maneuverable. Under normal circumstances, Earth would never consider military action against them. Diplomatic channels had always resolved previous tensions, but firing on a medical convoy had changed everything. Captain, we're approaching the jump point, her XO, Commander Jackson, reported. The fleet is in formation. Maya nodded. Take us in, Commander. Space folded around them as the fleet accelerated beyond light speed. For 6 hours they traveled in the eerie silence of FTL, each crew member preparing in their own way for what would come. When they emerged, the auxiliary outpost hung before them, a sprawling space station surrounded by a dozen warships. They know we're coming, Jackson observed. Defense grid is active. As expected, Maya replied. Open a channel. The communications officer worked his console. Channel open, Captain. Maya stood straight, hands clasped behind her back. This is Captain Maya Chen of the Earth Federal Ship Retribution. You know why we're here. Your forces attacked an unarmed medical convoy bound for Proxima Delta II. This is your one opportunity to surrender your military personnel and prepare for occupation. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then a gravelly voice responded, speaking perfect English. This is Commander Thrax of the Celari Defense Force. We acknowledge your presence but reject your accusations. No auxiliary ship fired upon your medical vessels. Maya's expression didn't change, but her knuckles whitened as she clenched her fists. We have the footage, Commander. We have the ship signatures. Do not add lies to your crimes. Perhaps you have footage, Thrax replied. Perhaps you even believe it to be true. But the Auxiliary Dominion does not target healers. That is not our way. You have 5 minutes to begin evacuation of non-military personnel, Maya said flatly. After that, we will consider your entire station a military target. Chen out. She turned to her tactical officer. Prepare all weapons systems. Target their military vessels first, then weapons emplacements on the station. Aye, Captain. The bridge fell silent as the minutes ticked by. At the 4-minute mark, dozens of small craft began hurriedly departing the auxiliary station. Civilian vessels evacuating, reported the sensor officer. No weapons detected on those ships. Let them go, Maya ordered. Focus on military targets only. As the 5-minute deadline expired, the auxiliary ships began to move, forming a defensive perimeter around the station. They're powering weapons, Captain, the tactical officer announced. Maya nodded once. Fire. The Retribution's main batteries unleashed hell. Streams of superheated plasma and relativistic projectiles tore through space, striking the lead auxiliary cruiser with devastating accuracy. Its shields flared brilliantly before collapsing, and the ship split apart in a silent explosion. The rest of the Earth fleet opened fire in perfect synchronization. 3 more auxiliary vessels were destroyed in the opening salvo. "They're returning fire," Jackson warned. The bridge shuddered as auxiliary weapons impacted the Retribution's shields. "Shields at 92%, reported the engineering officer. "Minimal damage." The battle was brutally one-sided. Within 20 minutes, all auxiliary warships had been destroyed or disabled. The station's defensive weapons were systematically targeted and neutralized. "Station defenses neutralized, Captain," the tactical officer reported. "They're hailing us." "On screen," Maya ordered. Commander Thrax appeared, his insectoid features difficult for humans to read, but his posture conveyed defeat. "Captain Chen, we surrender the station." "Prepare to be boarded," Maya replied coldly. "Your military personnel will be detained as prisoners of war. Civilians will be evacuated to your nearest colony." "Before you proceed, Captain," Thrax said, "you should know that this outpost contains valuable information. Information about why your medical ships were targeted." Maya's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "Not over this channel. But I believe you'll find the data in our central command ferry." Illuminating. The transmission ended, leaving Maya with an uneasy feeling. She turned to Jackson. "Prepare boarding teams. Full tactical gear. I want that command center secured first." "You're not thinking of going yourself?" Jackson asked. "That's exactly what I'm thinking," Maya replied. "If there's information about why my sister died, I want to see it firsthand." 2 hours later, Maya stood in the Silari Command Center, surrounded by Earth Marines and captured Silari officers. Before her, a holographic display showed information that made her blood run cold. "This can't be right," she whispered. The display showed detailed plans for a massive Silari fleet movement, not an invasion of Earth space as might be expected, but a desperate defensive maneuver. According to the data, the Xilari had detected a new threat emerging from beyond known space, a species they called the Void Eaters. First contact had been catastrophic, with 3 Xilari colonies completely destroyed. But most disturbing was the information about the Void Eaters' tactics. They disguised their advanced scouts as medical ships of various species, using the universal protection afforded to such vessels to infiltrate and gather intelligence. The Xilari hadn't fired on Earth medical ships out of malice or strategic calculation. They had genuinely believed they were firing on an enemy disguised as healers. As Maya processed this information, an alert sounded from the Retribution. "Captain, urgent communication from Admiral Reyes," her communications officer reported through her earpiece. "Put it through," she ordered. Admiral Reyes's voice was tense. "Captain Chen, we're detecting multiple unknown signatures entering the Sol system. They're broadcasting as medical ships, but our deep scans show weapons signatures unlike anything we've encountered. They're not responding to hails." Maya looked at the Xilari data again, her mind racing. "Admiral, I think I know what they are. And if I'm right, the war with the Xilari just became the least of our concerns. The price of mercy." Maya Chen stared at the data scrolling across the terminal, the pieces falling into place with horrifying clarity. The Xilari hadn't committed an atrocity. They'd been trying to prevent one. The intercepted communications, technical scans, and battle reports all told the same story. Something terrible was coming, and it was using humanity's compassion as its vanguard. "Get me a secure channel to Earth Command," she ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. "Priority Alpha." Within moments, Admiral Reyes appeared on the main view screen, her face grim. Behind her, the tactical center of Earth Defense Headquarters buzzed with frantic activity. "Captain Chen, make it quick. We're tracking 6 unknown vessels that breached our outer defense perimeter." "Admiral, the Xilari were right," Maya said, uploading the data she discovered. "These aren't medical ships. According to Xilari intelligence, they're advanced scouts for a species called the Void Eaters. They mimic medical vessels to exploit our ethical protocols." Reyes's eyes widened slightly as the data appeared on her screens. You're telling me the Auxiliary attacked our convoy because they thought they were these things? Maya finished. And based on what I'm seeing here, they had reason to believe it. 3 of their colonies were completely destroyed after allowing similar medical ships to dock. A tense silence followed as Reyes reviewed the information. Finally, she looked up. If this is true, we've been fighting the wrong enemy. There's more, Maya continued. The Xilari have developed a specialized scanning system that can detect the difference between genuine medical ships and these mimics. It operates on quantum fluctuation patterns that our sensors aren't calibrated to detect. Can we adapt our systems? With Xilari cooperation, yes. Commander Thrax has offered their full assistance. Admiral Rice's expression hardened with decision. Captain Chen, your new orders are as follows. You will secure that scanning technology and return to Earth space at maximum speed. I'm dispatching diplomats to your location to begin immediate peace negotiations with the Xilari. And the ships approaching Earth. We'll hold them off until you arrive. If they're hostile, as the Xilari claim, they won't expect us to be suspicious yet. Her voice lowered. But if they make any aggressive move, we'll be ready. The transmission ended, leaving Maya with the monumental task of turning enemies into allies in a matter of hours. Commander Thrax stood across from her in the station's conference room, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the lights. Despite his alien physiology, Maya could sense his unease. You understand now, he said, mandibles clicking softly. We did not want this conflict with Earth. We respected your species, but we could not allow what happened to our colonies to befall yours. Why didn't you warn us? Maya demanded. Why attack without explanation? Thrax's compound eyes seemed to dim. We tried. For 3 months, we sent diplomatic envoys with our evidence. They were dismissed as paranoid or delusional. Your government believed we were manufacturing threats to justify a military buildup. The revelation hit Maya like a physical blow. Had Earth's diplomatic corps been so arrogant, so certain of their moral superiority that they'd ignored genuine warnings? Or worse, had the Void Eaters already infiltrated Earth's decision-making bodies? We don't have time for recriminations, she said finally. My sister and hundreds of other medical personnel are dead. Your attack killed them, whatever your reasons. But right now, we have a greater threat to face. Thrax lowered his head in what Maya recognized as a gesture of respect. The scanning technology is yours. Our engineers will assist in calibrating it to your systems. How long? 4 hours, perhaps less with your technician's assistance. Maya nodded sharply. Then let's begin. While the technical teams worked frantically to install the auxiliary scanning systems on the Retribution, Maya reviewed the data on the Void Eaters. What emerged was a picture of calculated malevolence that chilled her to the bone. The Void Eaters weren't just predators. They were strategists. They selected target civilizations carefully, always choosing those with strong ethical codes regarding medical aid. They would send their mimics disguised as medical ships from whatever species they were targeting, knowing they would be granted access without question. Once inside planetary defense perimeters, they would deploy microscopic autonomous machines, not quite biological, not quite mechanical, that would infiltrate everything from computer systems to living bodies. By the time a civilization realized what was happening, it was typically too late. The Void Eaters' main fleets would arrive to find a target softened from within, its defense systems compromised, its population already partially transformed. Captain, Commander Jackson interrupted her grim reading. Engineering reports the scanning systems are integrated and online. We're ready for departure. Set course for Earth, maximum speed, Maya ordered, and prepare the fleet for immediate combat upon arrival. As the Retribution and its battle group accelerated to FTL, Maya addressed her crew, explaining the situation with brutal honesty. She saw the shock in their faces, followed by determination. They had embarked believing they were bringing justice for murdered healers. Now they understood they were racing to prevent an invasion that could end humanity. The journey back to Earth took 14 hours. 14 hours during which Maya couldn't sleep, couldn't rest. She studied everything the Xilari knew about Void Eater tactics, preparing for what they might face upon arrival. Exiting FTL in 3 minutes, Captain, the helm officer reported. Maya took her place in the command chair. Battle stations. Activate the Xilari scanning systems as soon as we're in normal space. The drop from FTL was always disorienting, reality reasserting itself in a rush of sensory information. But what greeted them in the Sol system was beyond nightmarish. 2 Earth defense platforms were already dark, drifting silently. The medical ships had positioned themselves near Earth's moon, still broadcasting distress signals and requests to dock with orbital stations. 3 Earth warships had formed a blockade, keeping the unknown vessels at bay. Scanning, reported the science officer, the Xilari technology humming beneath her console. Captain, these readings confirm it. Those aren't ships in any conventional sense. They're biomechanical constructs, and they're packed with the same autonomous machines the Xilari described. Hail Admiral Reyes, Maya ordered. The Admiral's face appeared on screen, relief evident despite her military bearing. Captain Chen, your timing is impeccable. These vessels are becoming increasingly insistent about docking with our medical stations. They claim to be carrying survivors from a deep space research outpost. They're lying, Admiral. The scans confirm they're Void Eater mimics. Reyes nodded grimly. Then we have no choice. All ships, weapons free, target the unknown vessels. The Earth Defense Fleet opened fire simultaneously, energy weapons and relativistic projectiles streaking toward the disguised ships. For a moment, it seemed the attack had caught them by surprise. Then the mimics changed. Their hulls rippled and morphed, the medical markings dissolving as their true forms emerged, sleek, organic-looking vessels with multiple protrusions that Maya realized with horror were weapon systems far more advanced than anything in Earth's arsenal. Evasive maneuvers, she shouted as one of the mimics turned toward the Retribution, its weapon sports glowing with sickly green energy. The first blasts from the Void Eater ships tore through 2 Earth frigates as if their shields didn't exist. The Retribution shuddered as it barely evaded a direct hit. Their weapons are penetrating our shields, Jackson reported. Some kind of phased energy our defenses aren't configured to stop. Maya's mind raced. The Xilari data had mentioned this. The Void Eaters used technology that operated on principles most civilizations hadn't discovered yet. What about the Xilari modifications? She asked. Can we adapt our shields using the same quantum fluctuation principles? Her chief engineer's voice came over the comm. Possibly, but it'll take time we don't have. Another blast rocked the ship, and damage reports flooded in. The battle was going badly. Earth's superior numbers meant nothing against the Void Eaters' advanced weaponry. Captain, her communications officer called out. Incoming transmission from the Xilari border. A fleet of their warships is requesting permission to enter Sol space. They say they're here to help. Maya didn't hesitate. Grant permission and send them tactical data on the Void Eaters' positions. Within minutes, 30 Xilari warships dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Sol system. Their designs were different from those Maya had encountered earlier. These were clearly their most advanced vessels, held in reserve until now. The Xilari ships moved with surprising grace, their formation tightening as they approached the battle. Without warning, they unleashed weapons Maya hadn't seen during their earlier confrontation, brilliant pulses of energy that seemed to distort space itself around the Void Eater vessels. They're using the same quantum principles as their scanning technology, the science officer realized. Their weapons are calibrated specifically against Void Eater defenses. The tide of battle shifted instantly. 2 of the Void Eater mimics were crippled in the initial Xilari assault. The remaining 4 turned their attention to this new threat, giving Earth's fleet precious moments to regroup. Maya seized the opportunity. All Earth ships concentrate fire on the damaged mimics. Use the Xilari attack patterns as guidance for targeting. The combined Earth-Silari fleet fought with coordinated fury. 3 of the Void Eater ships were destroyed in rapid succession, their strange organic hulls breaking apart to reveal even stranger internal structures. The remaining 3 mimics began to retreat, accelerating toward the edge of the solar system. "Don't let them escape," Admiral Rice commanded. "If they report back to their main fleet, we'll face an even greater force." The Retribution and 3 auxiliary cruisers gave chase, their engines pushed beyond safety limits. Maya watched the tactical display with grim determination as they closed the gap. "Weapons range in 30 seconds, the tactical officer reported. Then something unexpected happened. The lead Void Eater ship suddenly changed course, turning back toward its pursuers on what could only be described as a suicide run. "It's going to ram us," Jackson shouted. "All power to forward shields," Maya ordered, gripping her command chair. The impact never came. One of the auxiliary cruisers accelerated past the Retribution, placing itself directly in the mimic's path. The resulting collision vaporized both vessels instantly. In the stunned silence that followed, Maya watched as the remaining auxiliary ships destroyed the last 2 Void Eater mimics with brutal efficiency. The battle was over, but Maya knew this was just the beginning. As reports of casualties came in, 14 Earth ships lost, 3 auxiliary vessels destroyed. She prepared to meet with the auxiliary commander who had sacrificed one of his ships to save the Retribution. Admiral Krell of the Auxiliary Defense Force was older than Thrax, his exoskeleton bearing the distinctive scarring of multiple conflicts. He bowed deeply as Maya entered the conference room aboard the Retribution. "Captain Chen, I regret that our people's first true meeting comes under such circumstances." Maya returned the gesture. "The sacrifice of your cruiser and its crew will not be forgotten, Admiral." "A necessary action," Krell replied. "The ship you pursued was carrying specialized infiltration units. Had it detonated near Earth, the results would have been catastrophic. You've faced these creatures before," Maya observed. "More than just the 3 colonies mentioned in your reports." Krell's mandibles clicked in what she now recognized as an affirmation. "The Void Eaters have been probing galactic civilizations for centuries. We auxiliary encountered them 50 years ago. We lost 7 worlds before we understood what we were fighting." "And now?" Maya asked. "Now they know that at least 2 spacefaring species have joined forces against them. It will not deter them, but it may buy us time." Maya nodded slowly. "Time we need to prepare, to warn others." Indeed. Krell produced a data crystal, placing it carefully on the table between them. "This contains everything we know about the Void Eaters, their biology, technology, tactical patterns. More importantly, it contains the coordinates of worlds where other species have successfully repelled their advances." Maya picked up the crystal, understanding its significance. "You're proposing an alliance, not just between Earth and the Exilari, but a galactic coalition. It is the only way we survive what comes next," Krell said simply. "Divided, isolated, suspicious of one another. That is how the Void Eaters consume us all, one civilization at a time." 3 days later, in the rebuilt United Nations General Assembly Hall in Geneva, representatives from Earth and the Exilari Dominion signed a formal peace treaty, followed immediately by a mutual defense pact. President Kamal and Exilari High Counselor Verax stood side by side, their differences stark, but their purpose united. Maya watched from the audience, still processing everything that had happened. The loss of her sister and the other medical personnel still hurt deeply. The knowledge that their deaths had resulted from a misunderstanding, a tragic but understandable mistake by the Exilari, didn't erase the pain, but it had given it context. After the ceremony, she found herself standing before the wall of remembrance, where the names of those lost on the medical convoy had been inscribed. Her fingers traced the characters of her sister's name. "They did not die in vain," came a voice beside her. It was Commander Thrax, who had been appointed as the auxiliary liaison to Earth's defense forces. "No," Maya agreed quietly. But I wish they hadn't died at all. As do I, Thrax replied. But their sacrifice, however unintended, has forged something that may save billions of lives across the galaxy, a partnership between our peoples that the Void Eaters never anticipated. Maya nodded slowly. My sister always believed that different species could work together, that our differences made us stronger when combined. A wise perspective, Thrax said, one that will serve us well in the days to come. As if on cue, Maya's communication device signaled an incoming priority message. It was Admiral Reyes. Captain Chen, report to headquarters immediately. Long-range sensors have detected large-scale FTL signatures at the edge of charted space. Intelligence suggests it's the Void Eaters' main fleet. Maya exchanged a glance with Thrax, who had received the same message on his own device. We'll be right there, Admiral, she responded. As they walked briskly toward headquarters, Maya felt a strange sense of clarity. The war that had begun with a tragic misunderstanding had evolved into something far greater. Humanity's first true alliance with another spacefaring species, united against an existential threat. Her sister would have been proud. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, the Void Eaters were about to learn a harsh lesson. That attacking healers hadn't weakened humanity and the Xelari. It had forged them into something stronger than either could have been alone. The real war was just beginning. But for the first time, Maya felt they had a fighting chance.